Namaste, greetings and blessings, and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts. This is our Sunday message, and I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, the founder and spiritual director of this center. And I invite you to watch not only this Sunday message, but any of our archived messages. I invite you to join any classes or events that we have going on. I invite you to reach out and email if you have any questions. Questions about this community, questions about me, questions about what we do, or questions about this science of mind and spirit, liberation theology that we practice and teach. And if by chance you find yourself seeking beloved community with other like-minded beings, even if you already belong, are a member of another community, church, or center, you are more than free to have multiple affiliations wherever you are fed and find community. You are invited. And lastly, feel free to click like, subscribe, and share this or any other message or announcements with others in your circle. And with that, much appreciation, love, and blessings. Enjoy the message. Namaste and greetings and welcome to week number 3 of April. Fertilizing our future. Holistic growth. There are no quick fixes. While many we deeply desire a quick fix. We want the magic pill. We want that one class, that one workshop, or that one book, or that one crystal that will magically transform our lives. However, the truth is transformation and life itself is a process. There is no shortcut to living our best lives. And the sooner we accept the process, the better our lives and the world will be. As Thich Nhat Hanh said, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. There is no way to peace. Peace is the way. There is no way to enlightenment. Enlightenment is the way. Breathe. If we are going to truly transform our own lives and the world, then we have to understand the process. Now, as we have done recently, let's clarify a few terms as we go on. Holistic, characterized by a belief that the parts of something are all interconnected in reference to the whole. As in medicine, characterized by the treatment of the whole person, taking into account all of the mental and social and all of spiritual, all of these factors, rather than just simply looking at the illness or the symptoms of the illness. Whole, something that is entire, complete, the totality of, the oneness of. Well, what of wholeness? The state of forming a complete and harmonious whole or unity. The state of being unbroken and or undamaged. So we good. We all on the same page now. This idea of holistic transformation and experience and living is about knowing our divine oneness, our completeness, which brings us to this idea of fix. When you say fix, what does thou mean? Well, there's a whole lot of words for fix. We're starting on the second page because I'm not going through all of these. There are some on the first page that I want to specifically point out. Fix, to mend or repair, to make arrangements for something, as in to organize, and to decide or settle upon a specific price or date or course of action to be resolved. Now, all of that being said, what are we supposed to do with this? Well, let's pause and think about it in terms of fundamental spirituality or religions. For many of them, they come with this idea of like a car repairman, where the person who owns the car comes in and they're wondering, is my car really broken and in need of repair? Relating to our lives and our personhood and our spiritualness, we ask the question, am I really broken? And am I in need of repair or saving? Now, in New Thought, what would the answer to this be? Clearly, no, on both accounts. No, you are not broken, though you may be experiencing a variety of things that cause you to experience and feel brokenness, brokenheartedness, grief, mourning, sadness. All of these things, loss of relationship, divorce, etc. We feel broken
And we experience brokenness in a variety of ways in our lives, but the truth of our being as the divine in expression cannot be broken. So, both and. We know our completeness, though we feel and may experience elements or aspects of brokenness. And knowing that God is all there is, and it's what we are, then there is no us as divine beings that needs to be repaired, and certainly not saved. And yet, in the brokenness of our experiences, there is healing to be brought to that. The grief, the sadness, the anger, the frustration, the loneliness, all of these things, yes, we can quote unquote repair or heal these things. In the same way that a broken bone, it's repaired not by the doctor sets the conditions for the body to do its natural process to heal, to mend, to repair the bone. So as we look at our lives, we are invited to look at it with the same lens of both and. What am I experiencing and what do I know to be the truth of my being? When something in my life does not go the way I desire, do I automatically become someone who believes that it's because I am broken, because I need repair or saving even within New Thought? Do I believe that? Am I living as though I believe that? Dr. Holmes says the mind principle in us, which is in all things and which relates everything in harmony to itself because it is unbroken and unbreakable. The mind principle that is, it's not just in us, but the mind principle that is within us, that is us, is in all things. And because it's in all things, it clearly relates to everything in divine unity, oneness, and harmony because it of itself is unbroken and unbreakable. It is wholeness and oneness. And what it is, we are. He goes on to say, but if the consciousness of God, and this is what we're talking about, or the presence of God, or the Spirit is in everything, and if it is unbroken, and if it is undivided, and does not express itself in fragments, but in totality, it is everywhere. Okay, then all of it is incarnated in, expressing in, through, and as everything and everyone. That which God is. Even in and as the people in the Oval Office during a very embarrassing moment for the United States of America about a month ago, if you recall, when President Zelensky and the current administration of the United States and the current vice administrative of the United States, their behavior, and yet they are still divine expressions of the one. Clearly, they do not know it because what they are doing, what they are acting as, are petulant children, petulant fools. And yet, the expression of that does not change the truth of who and what they are. So, in the same way that a physician sees the illness and disease and they address it accordingly, our invitation also is to address the illness and disease of narcissistic psychopathy or anything, bullying, to address it in the same way regarding spirit, spiritual principles, and practices. That which God is, the totality of it is everything and everywhere, including those people we don't like. But what is our invitation? How do we bring our practices to whatever it is we are experiencing? Because there are times when we, like this gentleman, we create problems where there are none. As his canine companion is witnessing and says, bark, bark, woof, woof. For those of you who may not be speaking canine today, the translation being, I don't think you're doing that right. Now, this concept of doing things right, as Yoda says, too much time do we spend on the right way. Too much of right way is wrong way. And the I can't believe the drill actually spoke up, but he's going to break it again. How often do our judgments create brokenness in our experiences? How often do we create the very circumstances, such as what's going on in the United States today? We, the people, as a collective, created the circumstances that allowed brokenness back into the government, or to express in the way that it is expressing in the government. We do this in our families and our relationships, our marriages, in our relationships with our children and our neighbors. We do this often. So once again, our invitation is, rather than continuing to try to shortcut spirituality, engage in the process fully. Engage in the process fully, because as we are told from our good Lord of the Rings friend here, shortcuts make for long journeys. But what is he talking about? He's talking about the idea that when you shortcut something, anything, what you are actually doing is going to create a delay because you are not engaging in the full process. Pause for a moment and let's think about it. The civil rights movement went from a Jim Crow era of segregation on through to what we called equity. But we stopped when we got what we considered to be equity, when in fact the underlying principles of segregation and racism and the caste system and white supremacy, all of those things were still there. And just like if you have an infection, the pharmacist and the physician will tell you, take the medication, even when the symptoms go away, continue taking the medication. We didn't. And they say, because if you stop, the infection will come back and be resistant to the medication the second time around. We stopped taking our medication as it relates to women's rights, LGBTQ rights, Black people and equity, like all of these things, we stopped taking them. Shortcuts. Shortcuts. So where do we, here within New Thought and within this realm of, where are we invited to move beyond shortcuts? Because I guarantee you, if someone were to say, who folded your parachute? Do you want the person who did the full process, or do you want the person who did the shortcut? We already know the answer. So if we would not accept a shortcut there, why accept one anywhere? Now, no, because I'm not talking about if you're driving from here and you're going to this store and you can go this route, which is a shortcut. I'm not talking about that. That's fine. You're still engaging in the process. I'm talking about shortcuts in terms of creating a world that works for all, truly healing and empowering and evolving our lives. No shortcuts. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. Care of Confucius. It doesn't matter the speed at which we evolve and shift and change per se. It matters more that we do not stop, which in many ways we did. Speaking of shortcuts, suppose this young child showed up at a college. Education shortcuts, straight to degree. Why go through all of the blah? Why go through all of that when, to their point, I can't wait to start working in the OR tomorrow? You said what? So you're telling me the baby went straight, you said what? What's the delay? The baby doctor is getting diaper changed. What? See, we get it that we would not accept the shortcut when it comes to this. We want the physician to be well trained, well seasoned before they pick up a scalpel, prescribe a pill, etc. Then why would we accept shortcuts in any other area of our lives, spiritually, medically, financially, relationally? It's why would because we've been conditioned to do so. Life is a process of becoming, a combination of states we have to go through. Life is a process of becoming. It's not a done deal. It's a process. And see, we've been conditioned to believe in the get the brass ring and I'm done, get the degree and I'm done, get the license and I'm done, get the marriage. Yes, I do. And bouquet, flowers, yes, drink, cake, make babies, we're done. No, you're not. This is merely one of the stages, one of the steps in the vast library of life experiences. Life is a process, but see, we don't like this process of becoming. We want things to be shortcut, microwave spirituality. Pop it in 30 seconds and it's done. As is attributed to Abraham Lincoln, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. What is this speaking to? It is speaking to the idea of preparation, engaging in the process to ensure, as anyone who is involved in carpentry knows, measure twice, cut once. So when we are engaging in the sharpening of our axe through meditation, through art, through our relationships and prayer, through how we steward our finances, how we write and how we communicate, these are the ways and are only a few of the ways that we sharpen the axe of our consciousness so that we are able to show up in a very different way and engage in the journey. Why are these women climbing a mountain? Like, what's the point? Because the climbing is the point. Engaging in the process and the challenge of climbing is the point. Everyone wants to live at the top of the mountain, but all the happiness and growth occurs while you are climbing it. There is no elevator to the top of the mountain. There is no, can I just press top of the mountain and simply wait till the elevator goes up, the doors open, and boo, I'm automatically up at the top. I have succeeded and it's all done. That's not the point of the process. That's not the point of life. There is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. Peace is the way. Enlightenment is the way. How are we engaging in? How are we practicing the very process of the way? And while Bruce Lee said, he used a specific word here, fear, I respect, I'm going to swap out the word. I respect not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I respect the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. What is he saying? Measure twice, cut once. 6 hours, 4 I will spend sharpening. 2 I will spend chopping. He is speaking to the quantity and quality of engaging in the process and the practice. It's the only way a white belt transcends and becomes a black belt. The process. No one who truly practices the martial arts expects, I walk into black belt on Monday, by Saturday afternoon, I'm a black belt. White belt Monday, black belt Saturday. White belt Monday, I'm gonna walk in, get my white belt, paid my fees. And by Friday, Saturday afternoon, Sunday evening, do a week, should have my black belt. No one who actually practices martial arts expects that because it is a process. Now pause for a second. I'm going to test your Star Trek knowledge here for a second. You know what this is? Because this is how many people want spirituality to be, in the same way that the transporter room simply moves your molecules around and beam me up, Scotty, and you're automatically wherever you've been teleported, rather than the process of actually moving and journeying. We would rather it to be a straight line from point A to point B, but that's not life. I don't care if it's our expectation, that is not reality. The real world is a messy, confusing hodgepodge of stuff. And we do better in terms of all of this stuff by engaging in it fully. Keep in mind that progress is not always linear. It takes constant course correcting and often a lot of zigzagging. Unfortunate things happen, accidents occur, and setbacks are usually painful, but that does not mean we stop, we quit, we give up. It means we engage. We engage. That's precisely the time. Because see, what happens often, not just in New Thought, but anywhere that people pray. Oftentimes we pray for when something's going wrong, or we pray for, I want something. I want a new job. I want a new relationship. I want a new home. So I pray. I get a practitioner or a minister to pray. The doctor gave me a diagnosis that I don't like. We get a practitioner or a minister to pray to change the diagnosis because I want a miracle. Something's not going well, or I want my football team to win. So I pray because I want some, rather than, how are things? I'm good. Pray. You just got the new job? Yes. All things are, pray. Pray for that and even more. You're happy? Pray that the happiness sustains, that the happiness enlarges and the happiness spreads and that the happiness grows. Pray. Not when stuff is only going wrong or bad. Pray through it all. This is the precise time when the unfortunate things happen. Get involved, engage. When the accidents occur, get involved, engage. Participate in the process. Breathe. Holistic growth involves the awareness that we are not broken beings. Even when we experience great trauma, injuries, and disease, we are whole, perfect, and complete as divine incarnations of wholeness, perfection, and completeness itself. We are it. Now, how do we bring that, both and? How do we bring that knowingness and awareness to the times when we experience great trauma and injury, disease, etc.? When life zigzags, how do we maintain the course? How do we continue in our effective stewardship of life to make sure that we are on track? To make sure that we have not lost our way, that we have surrendered and given up, but we have a vision and we are driven by this vision and our values. Breathe. We could swap out any word for success, happiness, joy, health, anything. Success is a journey, not a destination. The doing is often more important than the outcome. The doing is often more important than the outcome. The outcome for those women who were mountain climbing, the outcome, they reached the top of the mountain. Woo, woo, woo. The doing to get there is more important. When someone jumps out of an airplane, what is the outcome? They're going to land on the earth. That's the outcome. You jumped out, gravity is like, come here, boom, you land in the open field. That's the outcome. Well, that's where you started. You started on the ground. So if that's the desired outcome, boo, I'm on the ground, then why get in the plane in the first place? Because it's not about that. The destination, the journey, the experience of going from plane through air back to earth. The doing is very often more important than the outcome. And keep in mind that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, and that one step is followed by one step, which is followed by one step. So in your life, think about, what does the journey of joy as your life look like? What does the journey of health and well-being as your life, what does it look like? Fill in the blank. What does the journey of love, compassion, financial stability, a world that works for all, what does the journey of that thing as your life, what does it look like? One can have no smaller or greater mastery than the mastery of oneself. One can have no smaller or greater mastery than the mastery of oneself. Are we mastering ourselves, or are we busy kowtowing and accepting the complacency of blah, blah, blah in the world? That's the question. Are we mastering stewardship? Are we mastering our minds and our words and our emotions and feelings and our actions? How are we stewarding and mastering this thing called God as us? How are we mastering it? Now, normally right here, we go into the Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 offers something. But before we go there, I want us to pay attention to this next slide and the very short film. And I want us to contemplate the metaphysical lesson that the video, that the film reveals, and how it ties into the slide that comes after when we resume our The Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 offers. So if you are ready, the video. Breathe. The Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 offers us the realization and the tools and techniques to embody our wholeness, perfection, and completeness as divine incarnations of God. And because we know ourselves to be whole, perfect, and complete, we see and respond to others knowing this to be the truth of them as well. There is no one needing to be fixed, only people needing to know the truth of who and what they are. This truth then sets them free from the false narratives. And once free, we are more apt to appreciate the journey and not solely the destination. We understand that the point, our destiny, our purpose is to be fully alive in this life, as fully as possibly as we can, to master this thing we call our lives. Breathe. Are you familiar with the film V for Vendetta? Because if you are, you will remember this. But if you're not, in the movie, this character says this phrase in Latin, which translates as, "By the power of truth, I, while living, have conquered the universe." How are we invited to conquer? We may not like that word, but how are we invited to master spiritual principle and practices? This week, our affirmation or declaration, I will say it first. If it resonates with you, I invite you to say it with me the second time around. I cultivate and practice the process of holistic growth and living, and I ever master the interconnections that nourish my well-being. Together, I cultivate and practice the processes of holistic growth and living, and I ever master the interconnections that nourish my well-being. And so it is. This week's Thursday night study group questions, or your personal journal questions. Number 1, when have I tried to fix myself or fix someone else? How did I go about doing it? What were the results of my attempt? Do I still feel broken in any areas of my life? Number 2, what processes and practices am I not engaging in because they are long, they are dull, they are difficult? Number 3, what are 2 examples of how or when I sharpen my axe? What have been the results of when I sharpen my axe? And how do I embody that phrase from the film that I mentioned previously? By the power of truth, I, while living, have conquered the universe. Number 4, from that Bruce Lee quote I mentioned earlier regarding doing one kick 1,000 or 10,000 times, what are 3 examples of doing this exact thing in my life? And what were the results? Stewardship, mastery. And lastly, what areas of my life are obstructed because of my relationship with perfectionism? Breathe as we enter into that space of intimately and infinitely knowing there is only that which God is, source, spirit, the divine, the universe itself, and what it is we must be. It is all there is. There is nothing other than it. And so we, in these incarnations and expressions, are simply expressing our divinity how we choose to do so. In this moment, we consciously choose, knowing who and what we are, we consciously choose how to engage the journey, the process, the practices in order to change and transform our life experience individually and collectively. So we breathe in knowing that there is this infinite truth, this absolute awareness and truth that gives us greater capacity to navigate, knowing that we are not broken, nor have we ever been, nor could we ever be, even though we grieve, even though we experience illness and disease, even though we fall down, even though this body dies, we are not broken. We can never be broken. We will never be broken because that which we are is God, and God is unbreakable. God is the infinite thing and cannot be broken. So we breathe in the awareness that says, even while experiencing this thing we call brokenness, even while our bones may need to be mended and fixed, the absolute truth of our being, the absolute truth of all that we are, wholeness, perfection, and completeness, living, moving, and having its beingness in, through, and as all that we are, even now. And so we breathe because we know that this is our prayer. We know that this prayer is how we live. We know that this way that we live is our amen. So we bring our attention and our practice, our stewardship and our mastery that says, how I do this thing, whatever this thing may be. I bring my 10,000 kicks, my 10,000 hours, my 10,000 prayers, my 10,000 affirmations. I do what is mine to do. I measure twice, cut once. I sharpen my axe in my conversations, in my hugs, in how I cook, in how I bathe. I sharpen my axe in all of these ways because as I know and as I live, I am expressing God. And this truth is true for all of us. And so we close with this awareness. We close knowing that this is our invitation. We close knowing that this is our amen. And with gratitude, it is already so. And so it is. Blessings. Namaste, greetings, greetings. Namaste and blessings to all. See you sometime during the week or see you right here next Sunday. If you have any questions during the week or want to connect, feel free to, reach out. Reach out. I won't sing, Tracy. Love y'all.